At this hour, we are hearing from the Vice President of the United States. Let's go now to Nancy Cordes at the White House. Nancy.
Nora, we've just received our first statement from Vice President Harris since President Biden threw his endorsement to her. She says, on behalf of the American people, I thank Joe Biden for his extraordinary leadership as President of the United States and for the decades of service to our country. She goes on to say, it is a profound honor to serve as his vice president. I am deeply grateful to the president, Dr. Biden, and the entire Biden family. She calls what he has done a selfless and patriotic act. She says President Biden is doing what he has done throughout his life of service, putting the American people and our country above everything else. And then at the end, Nora, she says this, I am honored to have the president's endorsement, and my intention is to earn and win this nomination. Over the past year, I have traveled across the country talking with Americans about the clear choice in this momentous election, and this is what I will continue to do in the days and weeks ahead. I will do everything in my power to unite the Democratic Party and unite our nation to defeat Donald Trump and his extreme Project 2025 agenda. In short, Nora, she is saying that with 107 days to go, she's all in.
Nancy Cordes at the White House with that new statement from the vice president. And Nancy, based on what you know from the campaign, the entire campaign team will now essentially unite behind the vice president. Is that correct?
This afternoon, Nora, there are meetings taking place across this town as Democrats, both within the campaign, outside the campaign, shift gears as quickly as possible to transform this campaign into a Kamala Harris campaign. CBS News has just learned that the White House Chief of Staff, Jeff Zients, held a meeting with cabinet officials this afternoon to inform them of the president's decision, to explain to them why the president had done this. We know that there's a meeting coming up a little bit later among Democratic National Committee officials. There are 107 days to go, and this is a very large ship to turn. And as Amy Klobuchar put it when she just spoke to you, no matter who said what in the days leading up to this, now time is of the essence, and we simply need to buckle down and get to work if Kamala Harris is going to have a chance to beat the Trump juggernaut.
Nancy Cordes at the White House with that new statement from the vice president. Nancy, thank you. And Ed O'Keefe, this is a moment now for the Democratic Party. We have had some members of the party call for a mini primary. Yep. Will that mini primary happen, or will the party unite behind the vice president?
At this hour, shortly after 4 p.m. Eastern, there's no sign of anybody preparing to mount some kind of a challenge to her directly, understanding that she has the president's endorsement, and now with so much goodwill towards the president and his decision, be hard to challenge that, perhaps. But she also technically does get the money, and the reason is because the Federal Election Commission makes clear, if your name is on the official title of the campaign, and it is, to re-elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, it stays with her. So she starts with that pool of money, which would also be a big barrier to entry for anyone else who's considering it. I suspect we'll see a lot more maneuvering for those that might be willing to be her running mate, among governors, among senators across the country who've been mentioned, mostly men, though there is conversation about putting 2 women on the ticket. And just following up on that cabinet meeting, we know that most, but not necessarily all, of the Biden cabinet was on that call with the White House Chief of Staff, Jeff Zients. One of the people familiar with it said that Zients confirmed the reports of the president's decision, and they walked through the, quote, consequential work of this administration and the president's expectation of continuing the historic work of the administration over the next 6 months. In essence, telling the cabinet, please don't go anywhere. We still have work to do.
And they truly do. On the international front, reaction is already pouring in. We have the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. We have Israel's president releasing statements. Joe Biden is still the commander-in-chief for at least another 5 months here. And what this does allow him to do, and what some of those trying to urge him to make this decision were saying, is focus on the commander-in-chief role, whether it is Middle East peace. We have the Israeli Prime Minister shifting his visit now to have a face-to-face meeting with Joe Biden to Tuesday. He'll be addressing Congress Harris Wednesday. You have this effort to say to Joe Biden, focus on the things that you care most about in your legacy. A lot of that having to do with foreign policy, not just because of his time in Congress focusing on these issues, but because we're in such a moment of upheaval. And there is also a desire to signal to the world that America's not in disarray, even though our political system sort of looks that way right now. There's going to be a real push from the national security oriented officials to try to signal all is fine and well and moving ahead on a charted course, even though we know we haven't seen a political race like this.
Mm-hmm. To build on what Nancy just said, Vice President Harris made this statement, and she said she will earn the nomination. She's going to work to earn the nomination. And we have new reporting that she will have to do some work to earn the nomination. Senator Peter Welch, a Democrat of Vermont, just issued a statement moments ago saying, I am confident in our ability to win and beat former President Trump, but our party has many capable, proven leaders, Vice President Harris among them. We have a deep bench who we should consider. So not everyone in this wave of solidarity behind Vice President Harris is offering their immediate endorsement. So she will have some work to do, at least in the United States Senate. Not everyone is echoing what Senator Klobuchar told you.
Senator Welch, not from a battleground state, from the state of Vermont.
But a progressive. The progressive wing is the one to watch. He's also close friends with Senator Bernie Sanders. What do they do? So far, they may want to make a negotiation on the vice presidential selection, because there's going to be a big push already to have Governor Beshear or someone else from a region of the country where Republicans have done well to counter Senator Vance being on the Republican ticket. But look for progressives in the party to say, not so fast. We need to be considered two for that number 2 slot.
Although Pramila Jayapal, the head of the Congressional Progressive Caucus in the House, has endorsed very quickly.
Endorsed Harris, but the vice presidential nomination, they're not going to want to see it just go quickly to someone they perceive as moderate, at least based on our conversations.